The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched so far that its walls disappeared into shadow. Ambassador Deho stood in the designated area for Earth's representatives, feeling smaller than he had in his entire 63 years of life. Around him, hundreds of alien species filled the vast space. Some floated in special atmosphere bubbles. Others stood on legs he couldn't count. A few existed as clouds of glowing particles inside containment fields. Deho had been Earth's chief ambassador for 5 years now, ever since humanity discovered faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community. In all that time, he had never seen the council chamber this full. Every species in known space had been summoned. The message had been marked as mandatory attendance. No exceptions. Behind Deho, standing at attention near the human delegation's transport pad, Captain Minji watched everything with careful eyes. She commanded the Defiance, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. The ship waited in orbit around the council station, along with hundreds of other vessels from across the galaxy. Minji didn't like being this far from her command, but protocol demanded that ship captains attend this gathering. A deep sound rolled through the chamber. It wasn't quite a gong, wasn't quite a horn, but it made Deho's chest vibrate. The crowd fell silent immediately. Every being turned toward the central platform. Council Premier Valtharim emerged from a shaft of light. He was reptilian with scales that shifted between green and gold. His species, the Valtharian people, had been spacefaring for over 50,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on a beach. Valtharim himself had led the Galactic Council. For 3,000 years, the Premier's voice filled the chamber without any visible technology amplifying it. Member species of the galactic community, you have been summoned for a matter of cosmic importance. The time has come for the traditional tribute renewal. Deho felt his stomach tighten. He glanced at Ji-Wan, the young communications officer standing nearby. She looked as confused as he felt. In 5 years, no one had ever mentioned anything about tribute, Valtharim continued, his golden eyes sweeping across the assembled aliens. Every 500 cycles, all lesser species must reaffirm their commitment to galactic order. This is done through tribute, resources, technology, military assets. These contributions maintain the peace that the Council has preserved for millennia. A holographic display appeared above the Premier's head. It showed a list of species names and numbers. Deho's translator chip worked overtime to convert the alien script into something he could read. The numbers were staggering. Some species were expected to provide 60% of their planetary resources. Others had to surrender their entire military forces to Council command. Then Deho saw it. Near the bottom of the list, one word stood out: humanity. His mouth went dry as he read the requirements. 40% of Earth's resources. 30% of their military fleet. And perhaps worst of all, the acceptance of Council overseers who would live on Earth itself, monitoring and guiding human development. Around the chamber, alien ambassadors were bowing, clicking, or making whatever gesture indicated acceptance in their cultures. Deho saw fear in many eyes. He saw resignation in others. But he didn't see any resistance. An insectoid ambassador near the front spoke in a high-pitched tone. The Hive of Krithos accepts the Council's wisdom. Our tribute will be delivered within the standard time frame. The Aquarian Federation bows to the Council's eternal guidance, said another voice. This one bubbling like water. One by one, species accepted their tribute demands. The pattern was clear. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a command that everyone obeyed without question. Valtharim's gaze found Deho. The reptilian's eyes seemed to look straight through him. Ambassador of humanity, does your species accept the Council's tribute requirements? Every being in the chamber turned to look at the human delegation. Deho felt the weight of those stares. Some were curious. Many were pitying. A few seemed to be watching with something like hunger, waiting to see the newest species learn their place in the cosmic order. Deho's mind raced. 40% of Earth's resources would cripple their economy. 30% of their military would leave Earth defenseless. And Council overseers on their homeworld? That was occupation by another name. His people hadn't fought for centuries to unite their planet under one peaceful government just to hand control over to alien overlords. But what choice did they have? Humanity had been in space for only 20 years. They had 7 colonies on other worlds, none of them fully self-sufficient. Their military, while advanced by Earth standards, was tiny compared to the forces he'd heard the Council could command. They were children playing at being adults in a universe run by ancients. "Premier Valthorim," Deho said, proud that his voice didn't shake. "This is the first humanity has heard of any tribute system. We need time to consult with our government on Earth. This decision affects billions of people." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Deho a moment to realize it was laughter. Not friendly laughter. The mocking kind. Valthorim's expression didn't change. "Your ignorance of galactic customs is not the Council's concern. All species pay tribute. It has been this way since before your ancestors crawled from the oceans. You will accept, or you will face the consequences that befall all who choose disorder over harmony." Captain Minji stepped forward, her hand moving instinctively toward where her sidearm would normally be. Of course, no weapons were allowed in the council chamber. "What consequences?" she asked, her voice hard. Valthorim looked at her the way someone might look at an insect. "There are species who once refused. The Dorian Republic thought themselves mighty. They are now a client state, their worlds administered by council governors. The Tall Confederacy believed they could stand alone. Their civilization barely exists now, preserved only as a historical curiosity. Defiance leads only to suffering." Deho felt cold. He looked around the chamber again, seeing the assembled species with new understanding. These weren't just members of a galactic community. They were subjects, vassals, the whole beautiful dream of joining the stars. Of humanity taking its place among enlightened civilizations was a lie. The galaxy wasn't a federation of equals. It was an empire, and Earth was about to become its newest province. "How much time do we have to respond?" Deho asked. 24 hours is customary for such deliberations," said a voice from the council platform. It came from a being made of what looked like living crystal. Valthorim raised one clawed hand. "However, given humanity's youth and obvious need for guidance, we will be generous. You have 12 hours to accept the council's terms. Not one moment more. 12 hours. Deho's mind spun. Earth was 6 hours away at maximum FTL speed. That gave them barely any time to have a real discussion, let alone make a decision that would affect humanity's future for generations. "We accept the time frame," Deho said, because what else could he say? "Wise," Valthorim replied. "This gathering is concluded. All species will begin preparing their tributes. Humanity will return here in 12 hours with their acceptance. This is not a request." The shaft of light consumed the premier again, and he vanished. Around the chamber, aliens began filing out through various exits. Deho stood frozen for a moment, his mind trying to process everything he'd just witnessed. Captain Minji touched his elbow. "Ambassador, we need to leave, now." Deho nodded and followed her toward the transport pad. As they walked, an alien approached them. It resembled an octopus walking on land with 6 tentacles and skin that changed colors rapidly. Its translator device spoke in a whisper. "Do not accept humans. I beg you. My people accepted 400 years ago. We thought we had no choice. We were wrong. There's always a choice, even if it is a hard one. Whatever you do, do not let them on your homeworld." Before Deho could respond, the creature hurried away, its colors flashing what might have been fear. Jiwan had heard the exchange. "Sir, what did that mean?" Deho watched the alien disappear into the crowd. "It means we're about to make the hardest decision in human history, and we have less than half a day to make it." The Defiance cut through space faster than light itself, racing toward Earth with urgency that made the ship's hull groan. In the captain's ready room, Ambassador Deho sat across from Captain Minji while Jiwan worked the communications console. Trying to establish a secure connection with Earth, Deho rubbed his face, feeling every one of his 63 years pressing down on him. Through the viewport, stars streaked past like rain on a window. Somewhere back there, the council waited for humanity's surrender. Because that's what acceptance would be, surrender. I've got the connection, Jiwan said. Patching through to Geneva now? The holographic display flickered to life. Secretary General Junho appeared, sitting in the Emergency Command Center beneath the United Government Assembly Building. Behind him, Daeho could see dozens of officials moving between workstations. The most powerful people on Earth, all scrambling to deal with a crisis none of them had seen coming. Junho's face was grim. He was younger than Daeho, only 48, but he'd led Earth's unified government through 3 major crises already. This would be his 4th, and by far the worst. Ambassador, we received your initial report. I need to hear it directly from you. Are they really demanding this? Daeho nodded. 40% of our resources, 30% of our military, and council overseers living on Earth, and Secretary General, it's not a negotiation. Every other species simply accepted. Some of them looked terrified, but none of them said no. How long do we have? 10 hours now. We lost time in transit. Junho cursed, something Daeho had rarely heard him do. We've convened the full assembly. I'm bringing you into the session now. They need to hear this from you. The display expanded. Suddenly, Daeho was looking at the assembly chamber, filled with representatives from every nation and territory on Earth. Thousands of faces looked back at him, and behind them, he knew billions more were watching on screens across the planet and throughout the colonies. He told them everything. The Council's demands. The implied threats. The way other species had simply bowed their heads and accepted subjugation. When he finished, the chamber erupted in shouting. A representative from Africa stood. This is colonialism. We've fought against this on Earth for centuries. We cannot accept it from aliens. We have no choice, said someone from Asia. You heard the ambassador. Species that refused were destroyed. Do we risk 7 billion lives on pride? It's not pride, it's freedom, shot back a European representative. What's the point of surviving if we're slaves? The debate raged on. Daeho watched faces on the screen, seeing the same fear and anger he felt. These were good people trying to make an impossible choice. Submit and lose their freedom, or resist and possibly face extinction. Then Admiral Sunhee requested to speak. She commanded Earth's combined space forces, all 12,000 ships. It sounded like a lot until you compared it to the Council's millions. She was 70 years old, her hair completely white, but her eyes were sharp as she addressed the assembly. I need to share some information that most of you don't have, Sunhee said. For the past 5 years, my intelligence division has been studying the Council's military capabilities. We've tracked their fleet movements, analyzed their technology, and assessed their readiness. She pulled up charts and data. The Council hasn't fought a real war in 3,000 years. Their ships are powerful, yes, but they're ceremonial. They're built for intimidation, not combat. Their tactics are outdated. Most importantly, their forces are spread across thousands of systems. They can't bring their full strength to bear quickly. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Someone asked, "Are you saying we could win a war against them?" "No," Sunhee said flatly. "I'm saying we could make them bleed. We'd lose eventually, but it wouldn't be easy for them. And that matters because the Council's power is built on the illusion that resistance is impossible. If we break that illusion, other species might follow." A younger voice spoke up. Daeho recognized him as Yamin, a junior analyst in the Xenocultural Studies Division. I have something to add to the Admiral's point. I've been reviewing the historical data from our first contact with the Council. They showed us records of their past conflicts, trying to impress us with their power. Yamin pulled up a timeline. But when you actually analyze it, something strange appears. The last time the Council fought an extended military campaign was 3,200 years ago. Since then, they've only had brief skirmishes with pirates and rebels. Every species they've subjugated has surrendered without major fighting. What are you saying? Junho asked. I'm saying they don't know how to fight anymore. They know how to threaten. They know how to intimidate. But actual warfare? They're out of practice. Dr. Yuna, the chief historian, added her perspective. I've studied every species that paid tribute to the council. Do you know what they all have in common? None of them ever regained independence. Once you accept council overseers on your world, once you let them into your government, you never get them out. It's a trap that closes slowly, over generations. The chamber fell quiet. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone. This wasn't just about today or tomorrow. This was about the next 1,000 years of human history. Secretary General Jinho looked directly at the camera. I'm calling for a vote. The question is simple. Do we accept the council's tribute demands or do we refuse? And if we refuse? Someone asked. Then we prepare for war, Admiral Funny said quietly. We evacuate who we can, fortify what we must, and we fight for our right to remain free. The vote began. Daeho watched the numbers climb on the display. He expected it to be close. He expected hours of debate and argument. Instead, something remarkable happened. The votes came in quickly. From Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from the Americas, from the colonies on Mars and Luna, from the stations orbiting Jupiter and Saturn, from the mining facilities in the asteroid belt, the final tally appeared 94% in favor of refusal. 94% of humanity had just voted to risk extinction rather than surrender their freedom. Jun Ho looked stunned. He clearly expected the vote to be close. I need to be sure everyone understands what this means. If we refuse, the council may attack us. Many of us may die. Earth itself could be at risk. A representative from South America stood. She was elderly, her voice shaking but determined. Secretary General, my grandmother fled a dictatorship. My mother fought against occupation. I grew up hearing stories about the price of freedom. I will not be the generation that trades away what they fought for. Let the council come. We will show them what humans do when you try to put chains on us. Applause erupted in the chamber. Not polite political applause, but the kind that comes from deep in the chest. The kind that happens when people are moved beyond words. Junho wiped his eyes. Then it's decided. Ambassador Daeho, I'm sending you our official response to deliver to the council. What should I tell them? Daeho asked. Junho smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew hard times were coming but was ready to face them anyway. You tell them what we just decided. You tell them that humanity has considered their demands carefully. And then you give them our answer. The message came through on Daeho's private console. He opened it, expecting a long diplomatic statement full of careful language and legal justifications. Instead, it was one word. Just one word that would change everything. Daeho looked at Captain Minji. She'd been reading over his shoulder. Their eyes met, and he saw his own feelings reflected back at him. Fear, yes, but also pride and determination. Well, Minji said, I guess we know what we're doing. Jiwon looked between them. Sir, what's the response? Daeho showed her the screen. Her eyes widened, and then she laughed. It was a slightly hysterical laugh, the kind that comes when you realize you're about to do something crazy and there's no going back. That's it, she asked. That's the whole message? That's it, Daeho confirmed. One word that says everything we need to say. The defiance continued toward the council station. In a few hours, Daeho would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and deliver humanity's response to their demands. One word that would either mark the beginning of humanity's ascension or the start of their destruction. But as Daeho looked at the message again, he felt something he hadn't felt since walking out of that council chamber. He felt hope, because win or lose, live or die, humanity would face the future on their own terms. They would face it free. The ship flew on through the darkness between stars, carrying a message that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. One simple word that contained within it all of human history, all of human stubbornness, all of human courage. In 10 hours, the council would hear that word, and nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the station that humanity was about to give their answer, and apparently every species wanted to witness it. Some had brought recording devices. Others simply wanted to see with their own eyes the moment when the youngest species learned their place in the cosmic order. Ambassador Deho walked through the crowd with Captain Mungie at his side. He could feel the stares, hear the whispers that his translator chip converted into a dozen languages. Most of the aliens seemed to feel pity. A few showed something that might have been satisfaction. Eager to see the upstart humans brought low, one alien blocked their path. It had 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected light in rainbow colors. Deho recognized it as Counselor Vex, one of the oldest members of the council. His species, the Vexian people, had been part of galactic civilization for 40,000 years. Human, Vex said, his voice like wind through hollow tubes. I have seen 2,000 species stand where you stand now. Not one chose unwisely. I hope you will show the same wisdom. Deho met those strange eyes. We've made our choice, Counselor. Whether it's wise or not, history will judge. Vex tilted his head in what might have been confusion or respect. History is written by those who survive to write it. Remember that. He moved aside, and Deho continued toward the central platform. His aide, Kyung Min, had arrived earlier to prepare the human delegation's presentation systems. The young man looked nervous, his hands shaking slightly as he checked the equipment one final time. Everything ready? Deho asked quietly. Kyung Min nodded. Yes, sir. The message will broadcast to every screen and translator in the facility when you give the command. It's also set to transmit to every monitoring station in council space. Everyone will see it simultaneously. Good. Deho took his position in the designated speaking area. Around him, the chamber filled with a sound like wind before a storm. Thousands of beings, all waiting to see if humanity would kneel. The deep sound rang out again, that not-quite gong that made his bones vibrate. Council Premier Valtharim appeared on the central platform, his scales gleaming under the chamber's strange lights. Behind him stood the other council members, a line of ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy longer than human. Civilization had existed. Valtharim's golden eyes found Deho immediately. Ambassador of Humanity, the time allotted for your deliberation has ended. The Council now requires your formal response to our tribute demands. Does Earth accept the terms we have generously offered? The way he said generously made Deho's jaw tighten. There was mockery in it, the casual cruelty of someone so used to power that they didn't even recognize it as cruelty anymore. It was simply the way things were, the way things had always been. Deho looked around the chamber one more time. He saw the octopus-like alien who had warned him earlier, hiding in the crowd. He saw species he recognized from the database, civilizations thousands of years old, all reduced to subjects of the Council's empire. He saw fear in so many eyes. Fear of the Council. Fear of what happened to those who resisted, but he also saw something else. In some faces, in some of those alien eyes, he saw hope. Desperate, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would finally say what they all wanted to say but didn't dare. Premier Valtharim, Deho began, his voice carrying through the chamber. The United Government of Earth has carefully considered the Council's demands. We have debated the matter with the seriousness it deserves. We have weighed the consequences of our decision. And we have reached a conclusion that represents the will of our entire species. Valtharim nodded, looking satisfied. Then deliver your acceptance. The Council is pleased that humanity has chosen wisdom. I didn't say we were accepting. Silence crashed over the chamber like a wave. Valtharim's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe? Or the first hint of anger. Explain yourself, the Premier said, his voice dropping lower. Deho gestured to Kingmin, who activated the display systems. Every screen in the facility lit up. Every translator device activated. Every monitoring station across Council space received the transmission simultaneously, on every screen. In every language known to the galaxy, one word appeared. No dot for 3 heartbeats. Nothing happened. The chamber was so quiet that Deho could hear his own pulse pounding in his ears. Then chaos erupted. Aliens shouted in 100 different languages. Some jumped to their feet. Others floated out of their atmosphere bubbles in shock. The sound was overwhelming, a wall of noise that crashed through the chamber like a physical force. Counselor Thex's compound eyes went completely black. Impossible. No species has ever. They're insane, another council member said, a being that looked like Livingstone. They don't understand what they've done. Valthorum raised one clawed hand, and the chamber fell silent again. The Premier's scales had shifted from gold to deep red. When he spoke, his voice was cold enough to freeze hydrogen. Ambassador Deho, perhaps you do not fully understand the situation. Let me be absolutely clear. The tribute system is not optional. It is the foundation of galactic order. Every species pays tribute. Every single one. This is not a matter for debate. Deho felt his fear, felt it trying to make his voice shake, trying to make him back down. He shoved it aside. With respect, Premier, you asked for our answer. We've given it, no. Do you comprehend what you're inviting? Valthorum's voice rose, losing its careful control for the first time in living memory. The Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for millennia. We have crushed rebellions before they could spread. We have ended wars before they could begin. We have done this by ensuring that all species understand their place. You are forcing our hand. Captain Minji stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Deho. If peace requires chains, then it's not peace. It's slavery. You dare, Counselor Thex started to say, but Deho cut him off. We dare, Deho said simply. Counselor, you said history is written by survivors. You're right. But you should know that humans are very good at surviving. Our planet has tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, plagues, predators, disasters, and yet here we are, standing among the stars. He pulled up his own display, showing images from Earth's history. Wars and disasters. Humans climbing back from the edge of extinction again and again. Cities burning and being rebuilt. Civilizations falling and rising from their ashes. This is who we are, Deho continued. We don't know how to quit. We don't know how to surrender. Maybe that's a flaw. Maybe it'll get us all killed. But we'd rather die free than live as subjects. He pulled up more data, and this made several council members shift uncomfortably. It was a map of council space showing fleet positions, military installations, command structures. Information that was supposed to be classified at the highest levels. We know where your fleets are stationed, Deho said calmly. We know your patrol routes. We know which systems contain your military manufacturing. We've been watching, learning, preparing. Not because we wanted war, but because we learned a long time ago to never trust anyone who demands submission. Valthorum's scales went from red to almost black. You've been spying on the Council. This is an act of war in itself. No, Minji said. This is due diligence. This is what any smart species does when they meet someone claiming ultimate authority. They verify. They prepare. They make sure they're not walking into a trap. She pulled up more data. Your fleets are impressive. You have millions of ships. But they're scattered across thousands of systems. You haven't fought a real war in 3,000 years. Your tactics are ancient. Your crews are ceremonial guards, not soldiers. And most importantly, you've never fought a species that has been at war for its entire existence. You think your primitive weapons can stand against Council might? Vex demanded. I think we'll make you work for every inch of space, Minji replied. I think we'll make you bleed. And I think every other species in this chamber will be watching, seeing that their Council can be hurt, can be fought, can be resisted. Deho saw it then, saw the real fear enter the Council members' eyes. Not fear of Earth's military. Fear of what humanity represented. Fear of what one word no could do to their entire system of control. An alarm sounded throughout the station. Minji's wrist communicator chirped. She checked it and smiled grimly. The Defiance reports that all human vessels in Council space have just gone to battle stations. We're not attacking, but we're ready. And we're broadcasting this entire conversation to every corner of the galaxy. You're also broadcasting your own death sentence, Valthorum said. Maybe, Deho agreed, but at least it'll be our choice. At least we'll die standing up. Can the rest of the species in this chamber say the same? He looked around at the assembled aliens. Some were staring at the humans in horror, but others, more than Deho expected, were looking at them with something different in their eyes. Something that might have been inspiration. The octopus-like alien stood up in the crowd. The human speaks truth. We have knelt for too long. Silence! Valthurum commanded, but the alien didn't sit down. No, the alien said, using the same word Deho had. No, I will not be silent anymore. Deho turned back to face the council. We didn't come here looking for a fight, Premier. We came hoping to find civilization. The council's private war chamber was a place few beings ever saw. Deep in the heart of the council station, it was a room designed for making decisions about life and death on a galactic scale. The walls displayed tactical maps showing every council fleet, every military asset, every system under their control. It should have been reassuring, seeing all that power laid out in glowing lines and symbols. Instead, for the first time in 3,000 years, the council members gathered there looked uncertain. War Hierarch Malvik slammed one massive fist on the central table, making the holographic displays flicker. He was from a warrior species, built like a wall of muscle and armor plating. His kind had conquered 17 systems before the council absorbed them 2,000 years ago. Now he commanded the council's military forces, though his job had been mostly ceremonial for centuries. This is an insult that cannot stand, Malvik growled. One primitive species, barely out of their own solar system, dares to refuse the council. We must respond with overwhelming force. Immediately. Councillor Thex's four arms folded in a pattern that indicated concern. And if we do, what message does that send? That we need overwhelming force to crush one young species? That sounds more like desperation than strength. It sends the message that defiance has consequences, Malvik shot back. Premier Valthurum stood at the head of the table, his scales still dark with anger. Both of you are correct. We must respond, but we must be careful about how we appear. The humans made sure to broadcast their refusal across the entire galaxy. Already we're receiving reports of unrest in 17 systems. 3 species have questioned their tribute requirements. This cannot spread. Councillor Reth spoke up. She was from a species that resembled Earth's birds, with feathers that shifted through different colors. She was known as one of the more moderate voices on the council, which made her next words all the more troubling. Perhaps we should consider why humans refuse. I've been reviewing the cultural data we've collected from their broadcasts over the past 20 years. She pulled up files on the central display. Images from Earth flashed past. Movies showing humans fighting impossible odds. Books about rebellions and revolutions. Songs about freedom and resistance. News footage of humans helping each other during disasters, refusing to give up even when everything seemed lost. This is their entertainment, Reth continued. They tell stories about defiance like it's something to celebrate. They sing about rebellion like it's glorious. Every piece of media we've intercepted shows the same pattern: humans who refuse to surrender, who fight against overwhelming odds, who would rather die than submit. So they're a species of fools, Malvik said dismissively. Or a species that means what they say, Reth replied. They weren't bluffing in that chamber. They really will fight. And they'll make it costly. Valthurum pulled up a different display, showing Admiral Sunhee's analysis of council forces. How did they get this information? Our military intelligence is supposed to be impossible to penetrate. They've been gathering it for years, said another council member, a being that existed as a cloud of thinking gas. Every cultural exchange, every trade mission, every diplomatic meeting. They were watching us the entire time, and we never noticed because we thought they were too primitive to matter. Dex made us sound like grinding stones. I warned about this. 20 years ago, when they first discovered FTL travel, I said we should bring them into the tribute system immediately, before they had time to grow strong. But the council voted to wait, to let them adjust to galactic civilization. Now they're adjusted and they know too much. Knowledge is not the same as capability, Malvik insisted. They have what, 12,000 ships? We have millions. Their technology is centuries behind ours. This should be a simple matter of reminding them of reality. Then why do you look concerned? Reth asked quietly. Malvik didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was lower, less certain. I pulled up the tactical assessments of human military doctrine. Their ships are inferior to ours, yes, but their tactics. He shook his head. They fight like nothing I've ever seen. No honor codes, no rules of engagement beyond basic survival. They use deception, ambush, psychological warfare. They target supply lines and communication networks. They don't fight to win territory. They fight to survive, and survivors will do anything. You almost sound like you respect them, Valtharam said coldly. I respect any enemy who might actually hurt us, Malvik replied. Which brings me to my concern. If we attack Earth and it's easy, we look strong. But if we attack and they make us struggle, if they destroy even a fraction of our forces, every other species will see that the Council can bleed. The tribute system depends on the illusion that resistance is hopeless. Counselor Reth pulled up more data. It's worse than that. Do you know how many species are watching the human broadcasts right now? 47 have accessed the transmission of humanity's refusal. Some of them have shared it widely on their own networks. The humans are becoming symbols. Symbols of what? Valtharam demanded. Of possibility, Reth said. Of the idea that maybe, just maybe, the Council isn't as all-powerful as we claim. 3 species have already delayed their tribute payments, claiming they need to reassess their budgets. That's their excuse, but we all know what it really means. They're testing us, seeing if we're distracted, wondering if this is their chance. The room fell silent. The weight of what Reth was saying settled over them all. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained control through a simple formula: demonstrate overwhelming power, make examples of those who resist, and keep everyone isolated so they can't unite against you. The humans had just broken that formula. There's something else, said a smaller council member, one who hadn't spoken yet. This being looked like a collection of glowing crystals floating in a rough humanoid shape. I've been analyzing human psychology based on their broadcasts. They have a concept they call going down swinging. It means that even when defeat is certain, they still fight as hard as they can. Not to win, but to hurt their enemy as much as possible before the end. Barbarians, Malvik muttered. Survivors, Reth corrected. Their planet is what we classify as a death world. Extreme weather, deadly predators, diseases, limited resources. Humans evolved in an environment that tried to kill them every single day. That kind of pressure creates a very specific kind of species. One that doesn't know how to give up? Valtharam looked at the tactical displays, at the maps showing Earth's solar system and the human colonies. War Hierarch Malvik, I want 5 subjugation fleets prepared. We'll move on Earth within the week. We'll make this swift and brutal. Other species need to see what happens to those who defy the Council. 5 fleets? Malvik looked surprised. That's enough firepower to sterilize 100 worlds for one species? Precisely, Valtharam said. No half measures, no prolonged conflict. We crush them so completely that no one will ever think about following their example. The human experiment in defiance ends now. But as the council members began planning their attack, a message came through on the emergency channel. It was from Balmen, a human intelligence operative they didn't know existed, sending data from deep within council space to Captain Henna, who commanded one of Earth's stealth reconnaissance vessels. The message contained the complete battle plans. Ship deployments, attack vectors, timing, everything. Within minutes, Earth knew exactly what was coming, back on Earth. In the command center beneath Geneva, Secretary General Junho looked at the intelligence report with Admiral Sunhee standing beside him. Around them, the massive screens showed preparations already underway. Colony ships launching toward deep space loaded with civilians. Defense platforms being positioned around Earth's major population centers. Every ship in the human fleet moving toward defensive positions. 5 fleets, Sun He said quietly. They're scared. If they weren't, they'd send one fleet, maybe two. 5 means they want to make absolutely sure we can't fight back, Junho nodded. Then we make them regret bringing only 5. Start implementing Operation Last Stand. Pull back all our forces to the solar system. This is where we make our stand. We'll lose, Sun He said. It wasn't a question. Probably, Junho agreed. But we'll make them pay for it. And every other species in the galaxy will see what it costs to try to enslave humanity. That might be worth the price. He pulled up a communication channel. Ambassador Deho's face appeared on the screen. He was still on the council station, still surrounded by aliens, many of whom were now looking at humans with a mixture of fear and awe. Ambassador, Junho said, it's time to come home. The council has made their decision. War is coming. Deho nodded. Understood, but Secretary General, I think I'll stay here a bit longer. Let them see a human face that isn't afraid. Let them see that we mean what we say. That could get you killed. Probably, Deho said with a slight smile, but someone needs to keep broadcasting. Someone needs to keep telling the galaxy that humans don't kneel. Might as well be me. Junho wanted to order him back to bring him to safety, but he understood. In the coming war, weapons and ships would matter, but symbols might matter more, and a human ambassador standing in the heart of council power. The 5 subjugation fleets emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system like a tide of metal and fire. 30,000 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, a demonstration of overwhelming force designed to break an enemy's will before the first shot was fired. On the command ship Pride of the Council, War Hierarch Malvik watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The human fleet was gathered near Earth, a pitiful cluster of ships that barely registered on his sensors compared to the armada he commanded. This would be over quickly. He opened a broadcast channel that would reach every human ship and station. Humans of Earth, this is War Hierarch Malvik of the Galactic Council. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Accept the Council's tribute demands and your species will be spared. Refuse and we will reduce your civilization to rubble. You have one of your hours to decide? The response came faster than he expected. Secretary General Junho's face appeared on every council ship's display. Behind him, Malvik could see the command center on Earth, with staff working calmly at their stations. No panic. No fear. That should have been his first warning. War Hierarch, Junho said with a slight smile, thank you for the offer. Our response remains the same as before. No. The transmission cut off. Malvik felt a flash of anger at the casual dismissal, but he pushed it aside. Very well. If the humans wanted to die, he would oblige them. All fleets begin the assault. Target their military installations first, then move on to planetary defenses. Show them the price of defiance. The Council fleet surged forward, engines blazing. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a war, who had crushed every resistance they'd ever faced. That confidence lasted. Exactly 7 minutes, the first wave of Council ships crossed what they thought was empty space between them and the human fleet. Suddenly, space itself seemed to explode. Mines, hundreds of them, activated simultaneously. Not simple, explosive mines, but weapons that tore open miniature black holes, ripping Council ships apart with gravitational forces they couldn't escape. 1,200 ships vanished in those first seconds. Malvik stared at the displays in shock. How had they missed the minefield? When had the humans placed it? Stealth technology, his tactical officer reported. The mines were hidden using a combination of methods we've never seen before. They're crude but effective. Before Malvik could respond, the human fleet attacked. But they didn't charge forward like he expected. Instead, they scattered in 100 different directions, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. His ships pursued, trying to engage the enemy. That was when the ambush began, hidden throughout the asteroid belt. On moons and stations, human weapon platforms opened fire. They'd turned civilian infrastructure into weapons. Mining lasers became ship killers. Cargo containers became missile platforms. Refinery stations became fortresses bristling with every weapon humanity could build or improvise. The Council forces found themselves under fire from every direction. Their ships were superior in one-on-one combat, but the humans refused to fight that way. They struck from hiding, fired and retreated, used the terrain of their own solar system like a weapon. Commander Taiyang watched from his platform hidden inside an asteroid. His team had spent the last week converting a simple mining station into what they called a combat hub. Now, as Council ships passed nearby, he gave the order, fire everything. Missiles, lasers, kinetic weapons, and things that barely qualified as weapons at all launched toward the Council fleet. A converted cargo transport, loaded with nuclear warheads, accelerated on autopilot straight into a Council cruiser. Both ships vanished in a ball of fire and radiation. Pull back, Taiyang ordered. New position. His platform, really just a heavily armed asteroid with engines attached, moved deeper into the belt. The Council would find them eventually, but by then they'd have moved again. This was how humanity fought. Not standing still, not playing by the enemy's rules. On Earth, Engineer Yunji monitored the defenses around the planet itself. She wasn't military. She designed water purification systems before the war. But when Admiral Sunny asked for volunteers to help modify the orbital defense network, Yunji had stepped up. Now she watched as Council ships approached Earth's orbital space. They were being careful, having learned from the ambush in the asteroid belt. They scanned for mines, for hidden weapons. For anything that might threaten them, they didn't scan for modified satellites. Activate the network, Yunji said quietly, around Earth. 2,000 satellites that should have been communication relays and weather monitors transformed. Solar panels became reflective surfaces. Transmission arrays became focusing lenses. And suddenly, focused beams of concentrated sunlight lanced out, targeting Council ships. The beams weren't powerful enough to destroy the ships, but they didn't need to be. They targeted sensors, communication arrays, scanning equipment. They blinded the Council forces, made them deaf and confused. And while they struggled to adjust, Earth's real defense fleet struck. Captain Minji commanded the Defiance into the heart of the Council formation. Her ship was outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered. By every logical calculation, she should have retreated or surrendered. Instead, she attacked. Target their command ship, Minji ordered. All weapons, full power. Her crew responded without hesitation. They'd volunteered for this mission knowing they might not survive. But they'd also known that someone had to show the Council that humans weren't afraid. That some things were worth dying for. The Defiance's weapons tore into the pride of the Council's shields. Malvik's ship was 10 times larger, 100 times more powerful. But Minji had studied the old ways of war from Earth's history. She'd learned about kamikaze pilots and desperate stands. She'd learned that sometimes the willingness to sacrifice everything was itself a weapon. Ramming speed, she ordered, her crew evacuated to the escape pods as the Defiance accelerated toward the Council flagship. Malvik saw what was happening and tried to move, but Minji had calculated her approach perfectly. The human ship slammed into the pride of the Council's engines at relativistic speed. The explosion lit up the solar system. Malvik's flagship broke apart, its command structure shattered. The war hierarch himself survived, but barely, rescued by his guards and transferred to another ship. For the first time in 3,000 years of service, Malvik felt something he'd never experienced in battle. Fear. The fighting raged for 6 hours. The Council forces pushed forward, but every meter of space cost them. Human ships that should have fled instead turned and attacked. Defense platforms that should have been destroyed kept firing until they literally ran out of power. Civilian volunteers flew cargo ships packed with explosives on suicide runs. 3 Council fleets were destroyed or crippled. The remaining 2 had captured the asteroid belt and were approaching Earth's orbital space, but they'd lost over half their ships doing it. What should have been a quick demonstration of power had turned into a brutal slugfest, and the entire galaxy was watching. Ambassador Deho had remained on the Council station, broadcasting everything. Every human victory, every sacrifice, every moment of defiance. His messages reached 47 systems where species had been watching the humans with interest. Now they watched with something more. Hope. In the Council War Chamber, Premier Valtharum watched the tactical displays with growing horror. His forces were winning, yes, but at a cost that was supposed to be impossible. Counselor Reth stood beside him, her feathers completely white with shock. "They're not fighting to win," she said quietly. "They're fighting to hurt us, to show everyone that we can bleed." On the displays, news was coming in from across council space. The Dorian Republic, subjugated for 2,000 years, had just refused their tribute payment. The Tall Confederacy had recalled their representatives from the council station. 17 other species were openly questioning the tribute system. "It's spreading," Reth continued. "The humans are losing their war, but they're winning something more important. They're showing everyone that resistance is possible." Valthurum's scales had gone completely black. "Order the remaining fleets to pull back, immediately." "What?" Counselor Dex looked shocked. "We're on the verge of victory. Earth's defenses are nearly broken. And if we break them, what do we gain?" Valthurum demanded. "We'll destroy one world and lose control of 50 others. The humans have already won, don't you see? They've broken the illusion." He pulled up the displays showing unrest across council space. "For 3,000 years, we've maintained control because everyone believed we were invincible. The humans just proved we're not. If we continue this attack, if we sterilize Earth, we'll look like tyrants clinging to power through genocide. But if we negotiate. Negotiate?" Vex's compound eyes flickered in disbelief. "With species that defied us?" "Yes," Valthurum said. "Because the alternative is watching our entire system of control collapse. The humans were right. We haven't fought a real war in millennia. We don't remember how. And they've reminded everyone of that fact." He opened a communication channel. Secretary General Junho appeared, looking exhausted but unbowed. Behind him, Sun He was coordinating the defense of Earth's last orbital platforms.